Okay, I thought I would do another one of these behind the scenes type videos, and this one's actually kind of behind the scenes because I'm not in the normal studio. I'm in my, I suppose you could call it my benchmark lab, and as you can see I've got one of the studio lights up here because although I do have a 50 watt LED light in the roof and it's quite good for me in here, it's not great for cameras, so yeah, I brought in one of the studio lights so it's a bit brighter and you can actually see me. Without it, it was quite dark. Actually, I won't bother turning it off, just take my word for it. My chair, my Ergo Human's getting a bit creaky. I think I need to grease it a bit. Might need to get some WD-40 out. So if you hear a lot of creaking going on, that's just the chair hating my weight. So yeah, just been working on the usual kind of stuff. Tons of Z390 board testing. I'll have the 4 budget boards, the 4 cheapest boards in the, well, from what is it, MSI, Gigabyte, Asus and Asrock. They're cheapest boards. That video probably around Thursday, I'm not sure on that one. Anyway, it'll be ready soon, so it'll be on the channel in the not too distant future. Some interesting results there. I'll actually show you the Asrock board, and I'm gonna have to go about the video a bit differently because the temperature results themselves don't tell the full story because, well, pretty much all of the boards except for the Gigabyte one throttle. So the Gigabyte board is actually the hottest, so it looks the worst, but it's because it doesn't throttle, and the other boards do throttle, and therefore the temperatures are lower, but performance is much worse. And yeah, there's a few things to go over there, but anyway, we'll have a look at that in a moment. We've talked about it in the Discord chat, but for those of you that aren't in the Discord chat for some strange reason, but if there's any of you that aren't, we talked about the BuildZoid video that went up on Gamers Nexus for the Hero. That's the Asus board from my Z390 testing. And basically, BuildZoid confirmed that yes, it is a 4-phase VRM, which is what we've known for quite some time now, but it's great to have another source, a trusted source, confirm what we've been saying. And there were some funny threads over on Reddit where the day prior I was getting bashed quite heavily, which is always humorous, and then the next day, yeah, not so much, when BuildZoid came out and said that yeah, the board is what we've said it is, and he even referenced testing in one of the threads. So yeah, that's nice. So people always say to me, oh, you know, you must hate having Gamers Nexus there to compete with, or whoever else is on the platform. I'm so glad we have Gamers Nexus on the platform because our content, we don't like doing a lot of the content they like doing, and probably vice versa. They don't do big gaming benchmarks because for whatever reason we don't do a lot of the delitting stuff and overclocking stuff that they do, and even, you know, they like to go really in-depth and technical, whereas I like to try and simplify it, understand it as best as I can, then simplify it for you guys. And even the VRM testing, a lot of people complained that that was a bit too in-depth, a bit too technical. I felt it really wasn't, but some people just want it really simple. That's what they're coming for, consumer advice. So yeah, we do very different styles to Gamers Nexus, so that's not really a problem as far as I'm concerned, and you can easily watch both of us. It's not like we're pumping out content around the clock every minute of the day. And yeah, it's just great to have another source to confirm or deny findings with. So that's how we can get to the bottom of things really well. So yeah, I think it's great having someone else as dedicated and passionate about doing this sort of stuff as we are. Of course, there's a lot of really great tech sites as well, but a lot of people that don't watch your videos exclusively obviously then don't read tech sites. So yeah, and then there's a lot of bad tech sites as well, but then there's a lot of not great YouTube channels as well that do really half-ass testing and misleading results. But anyway, no need to get into that. So yeah, the testing's going well. Like I said, we'll look at the Asrock board. Where have I got the Asrock board? It's hiding somewhere. As you can see, there's where are we? There's a few boards there. I've got a few more down the end there. Yeah, there's an Asrock board somewhere. Here it is. I'll just get that out. I wish my camera here was a lot lighter than it is. Actually, I think I showed it on the channel, but that's the Asrock board there, their most affordable Z390 board, and it's not particularly good, to be honest, especially if you want to eventually... Actually, that's something I want to talk about. Let's talk about that right now while it's popped into my head. As you guys know, this stuff's completely unscripted. It's me just rambling on, thinking about whatever pops into my head at the time, and I just triggered a thought that I want to discuss in the budget Z390 video. So we've got these boards that start at, I'm not sure what the cheapest Z390 board is, maybe 120, 130, I'm not sure. But they're somewhere between 100 and 150, these 4 cheap boards. Actually, I think the Asus one's like a bit up there, and it's probably going to be the worst. But that's not that unusual. Anyway, for their budget boards, I mean. Their high-end stuff's typically very good. So we have these 4 Z390 motherboards that are affordable, and you might... I know the first thing people are going to say, well, why are you testing this with a 9900K? Who is going to want to use the 9900K on a $150 motherboard? That's fair enough. But if you're buying a Z390 motherboard now with a Core i3 or a Core i5, and you're thinking, well, that's a processor I can comfortably afford now, and then in a year's time I'll upgrade, and I know I've got the option of getting a 9900K, maybe I'll get one second hand in a year's time, and that'd be a really nice upgrade for my board. Problem is, it's probably going to kill your board, or it'll be throttling heavily, and which will probably lead to killing it. So yeah, or it's just not running. At the very least, the 9900K won't be running nearly as well as you'd hope it would be running, and you'd be better off with an 8700K. It'd probably be faster, it'd be cooler, and it'd be easier on your board. So that's the way I'm sort of coming at that from. People usually have a very narrow spectrum, the way they look at these things. It's just how they imagine they would do it, or how they intend on doing it. It's pretty much the way everyone should or would do it. But there's going to be a lot of people that buy these more affordable Z390 motherboards with the intention of upgrading to a more substantial CPU in the future on that same board. It doesn't really make much sense if you buy an affordable Z390 board with a Core i3, and then a year later, like I say, you want to get a 900K, and then you've got to buy a whole new motherboard. At that point, you might as well just either get to whatever new platform Intel's on, or just go AMD. And that may be another comparison I have to do, is get something like the 2700X, or even the 2700 now, and overclock that, and try that on a heap of really budget oriented B350 and B450 boards. I've already done that testing. We know that pretty much all of them can do it. Certainly out of the box they work, unless I think Asrock has a board that's specified only to work with 65 watt CPUs maybe. But I think I even tried that board, maybe a bit hot. But anyway, the point is, if you buy a half decent B350 board, put a 2700X on there, it's going to work fine. I want to avoid that comparison initially because I know it's just going to trigger fanboys, because they're going to call me an AMD shill. Not that I worry about that kind of thing, but if we can first establish, without bringing AMD into this, where the Z390 boards are at, and then we'll continue on with further comparisons and stuff like that. But yeah, so basically people are going to question the use of a $500 US processor and a $150 motherboard, which is fair enough, but like I said, in a year or two down the track, when you want to put that CPU on that motherboard potentially, because you've already got that board, then it may not work or make sense. So it's worth investigating. And these boards do list compatibility with the 9900K, so it's not like we're doing something that isn't meant to work. But yeah, probably rambled on enough about that one. I'm not sure how I'm going to show you. Actually, if you've been hearing the rain, and it's quite loud, let's focus out there. So yeah, it's very, very rainy today, actually. I've probably got the shutter speed all wrong for that. Let's go. There you go. There's the weather outside. So my 1.4 lens isn't great for that. Okay, we're back to where we want to be roughly, and I'll just refocus that manually. It's a lot quicker than the stupid autofocus. And I'll just turn my monitor back on. Maybe I will just talk about it while I'm going over. So I've recorded the Asrock Z390 Pro 4 inside the case and on the test bed. And I'll overlay this footage while I talk. I think it's probably the way to go about it. So if we put the Asrock Z390 Pro 4 inside a case with very good cooling, very good ventilation, plenty of cool air flowing into the case, and most importantly, airflow directly over the board's VRM heatsinks. So if we do that and we run our Blender workload, and this is out of the box settings, yes, that's right. So it's putting about 1.28 volts, 1.28 volts into the CPU, and it's maintaining a all-core frequency of 4.7 gigahertz. So it's running uncapped on the TDP. We're hitting about 190 watts, and that runs happily inside the case for the duration of my test, so an hour plus. We get up to, what have I recorded here? I've recorded only about 11 minutes. I think it gets up to about mid 80 degrees on the back side of the board, about 80 degrees on the surface temp, and that means this board doesn't actually report VRM temperatures in hardware info, so there's no sensor that we're reading correctly there. Not sure if they'll fix that with a future BIOS revision, but at the moment I can't actually record the alleged internal MOSFET temperature. But anyway, the point is, in the case, we see no VRM throttling, and the board runs relatively, a surface temperature of 80 degrees is like 100 degrees. So I think it's safe to say the VRM has an internal temperature of about 100 degrees, which is not great. I know people will say, oh, but they run at 120. That's the TJ max, or sorry, that's the thermal junction, the maximum temperature that they will allow you to hit before they start either throttling down or power the board off. However it's configured to handle that scenario. But basically they don't want to get up to 120 degrees. That's just that's a red line. That's a hard limit. They're not going to let you go past there, because then you'll start degrading them extremely rapidly to the point where they go poof, that's it. But at 120 degrees, they're degrading quite rapidly and the board's life is being reduced. So you want to stay well below 100, I would say. So at 80 degree surface temperature, you're looking at 100 degree internal temperature. So that's not good. So basically, in a case with an ambient room temperature of 21 degrees, what was it reading? 21.5 for the majority of that test. 21.5 degrees, so a very cool room, and we're pretty much hitting unacceptable temperatures in that best case scenario. Now, if we throw it on an open test bed, which again, that's not a bad scenario. We don't have direct airflow, but it's not baking inside a poorly ventilated case. So again, we've got 21 degrees as the ambient air temperature. And let's go, where does the test kick in? Okay, so it kicks in here, and we're seeing an all-core of 4.7 gigahertz, package TDP of about 180 to 190 watts, and we start the test. As soon as the test kicks off, we're at about 40 degrees. I should note that T3 is the surface temperature of the FETs. So, we're at 43 degrees at the start of the test. And what is the time here? Where do I look at the clock? Okay, minute 36. If we go 30 seconds in, we're at 53 degrees. And then by the time we get just a few minutes in, we're already up around 70 degrees as the surface temperature. So you're looking at probably around 90 degrees already. And we've been running the test in total for 2 minutes and 47, but it's actually only been stressing the CPU for about 2 minutes, if that. I'll go for a little bit longer. Now we're at 80 degrees. Test has been going for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So you're looking at your 100 degrees temperature now. And it's not much longer before we hit thermal throttling. So we get, what are we at? Fourth, there we go. We just hit our first. So if you look at the yellow line on the graph, you can see the dip, and that is thermal throttling. So basically by 4 minutes and 37 seconds, we are first bit of VRM thermal throttling, and then it becomes much more consistent. And you can see we're up around 92 degrees for the surface temp. That's getting way too hot, and now it's just throttling like crazy, and that's a fail right there. So you can see the all-core frequency is dropping down to about 4.1, 4.2 at times. It'll just continue to get worse. Temperatures are still increasing despite the throttling. And we get up to a PCB temperature of 100 degrees, which is insane. And we hit a surface temperature of 93 degrees, which is also insane. So once your VRMs, or once your VRM thermal throttles, that's a fail. Instant fail, and the board can't do it. So that board is pretty much going to thermal throttle in any scenario. Unless you have it in a, like I said, a 21 degree room and you're pumping loads of airflow over it, 21 degree air that is, it's not going to work. So you can't put a 9900K on that board, it will kill it before too long. They don't like running at those temperatures. So if you're just gaming, like I said, if you're just gaming, doing general sort of stuff, then fine. But if you're rendering, encoding, anything that runs for 20 plus minutes and you're doing that on a regular basis, that will definitely shorten the lifespan of the board. So yeah, the 9900K on budget boards is going to be pretty much a no-go. The Gigabyte board is right on the edge for a few reasons, but it does work, but I'll talk about that more in the video. And yeah, I don't think I have too much more to say in this unscripted waffling mess. But yeah, hope you guys found that somewhat interesting. Probably a million other things I could talk about. Lots of things that I have to think about for this low-end Z390 VRM test, because yeah, explaining the results will be a little more tricky than normal, because you've got to take into account things like thermal throttling, which mess with the results. Basically, like I said, once you detect thermal throttling, it's a fail. So while I will show the temperatures that we got, I'll have to clearly indicate on the graphs that this is a fail, because if people post those graphs elsewhere on Reddit or whatever without any context, it'll look like the Gigabyte board's the worst, when in fact it's actually the only one that passed. I'm about to test the Asus board now. Where are we? I just got this sucker. There it is with the heat sinks off. So I'm about to test that. The piddly little heat sinks are here. There's one of them. There's the other one. And yeah, so I'm about to go test that right now and see how bad it probably is, because I'm not expecting much out of that one. Oh man, my camera's heavy. So anyway, that's another behind the scenes video. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Guess I'll speak to you in the Discord chat. Bye!